Hello everybody, I am Krishna Rao Patro. Today I will discuss about classes and objects concepts of Java. So how classes and objects are created and used in Java. Classes and objects are basic concepts of object-oriented programming. Classes and objects are basic concepts for any object-oriented programming that are used to represent the real world concepts and entities. So whenever you are trying to solve a problem, in the problem there will be a lot of entities. Those entities you can represent through classes and objects. The class represents a group of objects having similar property and similar behavior. The entity means real world entity which having similar type of behavior or similar type of properties. Those things will be represented by a special entity that is called your class. So I can say class represents a group of objects having similar type of properties and behavior. Next, a class is a set of objects which shares common behavior and common property. It is a user-defined blueprint or prototype from which objects are created. So objects are created from the class. There is no object without class. So I can say a class is a blueprint of an entity. A class is a set of objects which share common behavior and property. For example, student is a class while a particular student, Mr. Ravi, is an object. So in a class there will be multiple students, but all the students having similar type of properties and similar types of behaviors. So one of the student is acting as one type of object of student type. So in object and programming, you have to know two things, class and object. First of all, you have to define a class, then you have to create object. So before creating object, you have to define a class. The syntax of writing the class in Java, you have to follow the syntax. First you have to mention the access modifiers, then the class keyword. This keyword you have to write class, then the class name you have to mention whatever the name you want for your application. In addition to this, open brace and close brace, this is the general syntax. Then you have to write the data members, that means your attributes. Or you can say properties. Okay. So first of all, you have to define what are the data members for the class. Then you should write methods, or also known as functions, or also known as actions. So every class will have set of data members, set of methods, as well as there is a special method that is called constructor to initialize object, to initialize. And in some class, you may need some nested class also. So inside a class, you can write one more class. At the same time, you can write set of interface also. So a class can have these types of items. So in Java, whenever you are defining a class, you have to follow the syntax. First you have to write access modifiers, then you have to write class, then you have to write class name, then in the curly brace you have to write the data members, methods, constructors, nested class and interface. These are the various items of class. Then we will see what is access modifier and what access modifier I should write before the class keyword. So remember what are the components I should use while declaring a class. First is modifier, the class modifier. A class can be a public, or if you are not writing anything, that is default. So you can write a keyword called public. That public is one type of modifier. If you observe here, if you write the class name, first one is what? Access modifier. This access modifier can be a public. So if you are not writing anything, that become default, but the keyword you can write is public. So that is your access modifier. So this public tells that this class is accessible outside. You can access outside. Similarly, there is a keyword called class. The class keyword is used to create a class. So to define a class, you have to use the class keyword. Then in the angle bracket, you have to write class name. The name should begin with the initial letter. Generally started with the uppercase. That is the general convention which is given by Mr. James Gosling. So please write, while writing class name, first letter is always capital letter or uppercase. Then you can write the superclass. If at all you are having any superclass, then you have to write extends keyword also along with the class. The name of the class or parent, if any, preceded by the keyword exceeds, a class name can extend from the parent. So you have to use a keyword called extend also. So in the class declaration, you can write all these keywords. Similarly, interface, you can implement some interface also. A comma separated list of interface implemented by the class if preceded by the keyword called implements. So while defining class, you can write all these things. Then you can write the body. Inside the body, you can write the setup, data members, methods, and nested classes and nested interfaces also. So these are the various components of Java classes. So, but all may not required every time. You may use only few also. Then what are the properties of a Java class? A class is not a real world entity. It is a generic entity. Class is a generic. That means generalized form. You can imagine only. There is no physically not exist. Only logical thinking. So that's why it is not a real world entity. It is just a template or a blueprint or prototype from which objects are created. So class is just a blueprint from which you can create set of objects. Class does not occupy memory because it is a logical one. Physically, it is available when you are creating object. So object requires memory, whereas class will not require any memory. A class is a group of variables of different data types and group of methods. So I can say class is a combination of both attributes and methods, or some variables and functions. A class is a combination of two things, attributes and methods. A class in Java contains these items. Data member. Data member means you are the variables, what are the variables required for the class. Then methods, that means the functions what you are going to use for the class. Then you can write the constructor to initialize object. Then you can write nested class. Then you can write interface also. These are the items available inside the class. Or you may write or you may not use also. A Java program to define a student class. Assume I am having two attributes. One is ID, second one is name. ID is my attribute, name is my attribute. So these are my data members. These are my data members. And my student class having a method called main. This is my method. Inside the method, I will do my task. So these are my processing tasks. So how many statements are there? 3 statements I wrote to do some process. Here, student S1 equal to new student. So what I did, I have created one object of student class. So to create object, you should write like this. First you have to mention the name of the class, then the name of the object name S1, followed by new, followed by constructor. Of course, in this program you have not written constructor. So that means constructor also not compulsory. If you are not writing any constructor, but still you are using, then this is called your default constructor. It is known as default constructor. Okay. After construction of the object, then I want to print whatever the data members are there in my object. So while creating object of student, in my student object, automatically the ID will be available as well as name will be available. Now when I am asking print ID and print name, then what it will print? Because when you are creating the object, automatically for integer the value will be 0 and for name this will be null. So you will be getting the 0 from this object S1, because S1 is my object. S1 dot ID means this value will be printed. Similarly, S1 dot name, so it prints null. It prints null. So this is the way you can add a class. So in this class, I am having a data member as well as the method. So that means all components you may write, may not write also. This is a sample program. Now, how to create objects? Objects are what? Instance of the class that are categorized or that are created to use the attributes and methods of a class. Generally, when you are creating object, you can use all the members. That means you can use the data members, you can use the methods also. You can use data member as well as you can use the methods also. An object which is having a set of items, or an object consists of state, object consists of behavior, and object having identity also. A object having three things: state, behavior, and identity. State means what? It is represented by attributes of an object. It also reflects the property of object. So whatever the properties are defined for the particular class, those things are there in the object. So here, for a dog class, I am having set of attributes: breed, age, color. They are my attributes or properties. Those properties you can represent in the state. So it is represented by attributes of object. It also reflects the properties of object. The state reflects its value or its attributes. It represents all attributes, the values. Then the behavior. It is represented by the method of object. It also reflects the response of an object with the other object. So how it will interact, what are the operations you can do, those things will be mentioned through behavior. What are the tasks you can do with the object, that is called behavior. The dog can bark. Bark is its behavior. That is the method. Sleep is one of the method. Eat is one of the method of dog class. So here identity is to identify the object. It gives the unique name to the object and enables one object to interact with another object. You can interact with outside world through the name. So every object is identified by some name, some identity. So here in this example, the dog is identity. So for the dog object, I am having set of attributes and set of behavior. Okay. So remember, every dog will have, or every object will have these three things: state, behavior, and identity. Then how the class and objects are interlinked? If you want to have a class or object, first of all, you have to create the class. This is my class. What is the name of the class? Name of the class is dog. Name of the class is dog. This dog class having set of attributes: breed, age, color. The dog class having the behaviors like barking, sleeping, and eating. They are the behaviors. If you combine all these things, that become dog class. So whatever the state and behaviors are there, that will be reflected in the object. That means every object is a Xerox copy of the class. So here, dog 1 is an object, dog 2 is another object, dog 3 another object, dog 4 another object. So this is one object. This is one object. Dog 1 also one object. Dog 2 also object. But dog is a class. So in dog 1 you will find all the states and behavior. In dog 2 also you will find same state and behavior. In dog 3 also same state and behavior. In dog 4 also same state and behavior. So exact copy is available in every object. So this is your logical imagination. So please think about this. First define the class, then create the object. Now you may ask, can you create any number of objects? Yes, you can create any number of objects. You can have one more object called dog 5 also. Dog 5. This dog 5 will have also same attributes and same behavior. You can create any number. Then what are the ways are there to create object? You can create the object by different ways. One of the common ways using new keyword. Most of the time we are using new keyword to create our own object, because using new, it will allow you to allocate memory. Where? Because dynamically you are allocating. That means from the heap area you are getting memory for the object. So you can use the new keyword and object will be initialized. For example, there is a class called test. There is a class called test and I want to create object of test. So I can write new followed by the constructor. Then automatically one object is created. Now here T is the object of test class T. So to create the object, I have used what? The new. The new is used to create this. So most of the time in exam they may ask a question, what are the different ways you know to create object? Then you can say using new operator I can create object. Because it follows dynamic memory allocation. Because actually new is an operator to allocate memory. So for every object it requires memory. That's why using new. And there is another method called clone. Clone method is also a method which will allow you to create one instance, one object. Clone method is present in the object class. Actually there is a built-in class called object class. This object is a built-in class. It is a built-in class available in the lang package. Available in lang package. It must implement. So if you want to clone a particular class, clone means what? You want to create an object. Then you must implement one interface called clonable. There is a built-in interface called clonable interface. By implementing clonable interface, you can create a new object. That means you are not going to use new operator. For example, I am having T1. T1 is what? T1 is an object. That object I have created using new. That object I have created using new. But I want to create one more object. That means exact clone of T1. So what I will do? Test T2. T1.clone. Whatever the T1 is there, same thing I will clone it. Clone means I will make it one more Xerox. One more object. So you can write, there is a method called clone method. What method? Clone method. This method is available under clonable interface. That interface you have to implement. Otherwise, you cannot create object. See, for T2, I did not use new. So, T2 is the clone of T1. So, these are the standard ways of creating new objects. One is using new operator, second one is using clone method. Let us see a program. How you can create using clonable. Already in the previous program, you have seen how to use new operator. Okay, see new one. New one I think I told you already. Using new, you can write like this. New followed by the constructor. Please observe this program. Object creation using new. Public class dog. Dog is a class having name, breed, color, their string type and age. That means my dog class having 4 attributes. These are my attributes. These are my attributes. And this is my constructor. This is my constructor. So using constructor I can initialize my object. And my constructor takes how many parameter? Name, breed, age, color. 4 parameter I am passing. Because I am having 4 attributes. Those 4 attributes I want to initialize. So through constructor I will initialize my attributes. So now please observe your name, breed, age, whatever the parameter you pass, those things assigned to my attribute. So automatically my object is initialized. Once the object is initialized, then whenever I want, I can get the data or I can set the data. There are actually methods called getter and setter method. So using get name, I can get the name of the object. I can get breed of the object. I can get age of the object. Then I can get color. What are the colors are there? So for every class, I can have a getter method as well as setter method. Using getter method, I can get the value of the attribute. Using setter method, I can set the value for object. So those methods are general methods. So whenever you are writing a class, you can write setter and getter method. For every attribute, if there is a attribute called name, then you should write get name. At the same time, you can write set name also. Similarly, if there is a attribute called breed, then you can write get breed as well as set breed. Similarly, if there is a attribute called color, then you can write get color and set color. These are the general methods generally we used to write in the object-oriented program. So while defining a class, you can write getter and setter method for every attribute. Getter method will allow you to get the data. Setter method will allow you to set the data. And whenever you want to print the object, then you have to override a method called toString method. So toString method will allow you to print the object. If you want to print the object directly, you can write like this: return my name is, what is the name of the object? Whatever the name you have assigned, that name will be returned. So this way you can write. Of course, if you want to write set color also, this value you can say plus double quote plus get is, I can write this method. Whatever the name you want, you can write also. So that means this way you can write. So when you call toString method, automatically the object will be printed. And dog D is my object. New dog toffee. So here this is the name of the dog. Papillion is the type of the breed. 5 age of the dog. Color white. So 4 parameters I pass. Automatically this value will go there and assign to the attribute. And after that I am printing D. So when I write D.toString, automatically the string the object will be printed. Now see how to use the clonable. If you want to use clonable to create object, same program, whatever the way you have done, but here you have to write a keyword called implements clonable. This statement you have to write. If at all you want to create an object through clone method, then you have to first implement clonable interface. After implementing that clonable interface, then whatever the attributes and whatever the constructor and whatever the methods are there, you have to write. And setting means toString to print the object. After that, you have to create the instance. Initially, one D is created. But D1, how did you create? This is using new operator. This is using new. Once the D1 is created, then I want to create one more D1. That means I want to clone it. So my D2 is a cloned one of D1. So whatever the data is there in the D1, same thing I want to copy in D2. Clone it. That is called Xerox copy. Xerox it. So D1 dot clone and typecast to dog clone type, because this is the name of the class. Of course, this name you can give anything. Here I have given the dog clone. So automatically I am getting one clone of D1. And whenever I am printing, as I am printing D2. D2 means what? It will print the object of the D2. That means the toString method will be called automatically. When you write D2, whatever the values are there, that will be printed through toString method. So toString method will be called when you are trying to print object. So this is the way generally the cloning method are used to create a new object. Already I think you have seen this type of diagrams in earlier classes. Assume a person is a class. ID, name, age, city, gender. They are what? My attributes or the data members or equals to properties. Eat, study, sleep, play. They are the methods or called functions or called actions. Okay, data members are called properties or also called attributes. Because different people are writing different way, but they are the common interchangeable words. Now person is what? It is a class. Person is a class. It is a generalized form. It is a generic form. Whereas this person is one object whose Name is Johan, age is 35, Delhi, male. Similarly, this is second object. For this name is Desi, age is 20, city is Pune, gender is female. So this way you are able to create different set of objects. This object, how you will create? Using new. But using clone, what you will do? You can clone same thing. You can clone the similar object. Exactly same thing will be copied. So now I'll go to a program. There I will show you how to create it. Let me go to Notepad. Class. Assume I create a test class. And I am having int I, j. They are my two attributes. And I am having my constructor test int I, int j. And whatever the data I am passing, I have to store it. This dot I equal to I, and this dot j equal to j. So that means what? I am assigning the parameter to my member variables. So if you want to assign your trace, this means it refers to current object. And for every member or for every attribute, you should write corresponding getter and setter method for your future reference or future changes. So I will write a method called getter method. Getter method, how will write? Getter method. So I told you for every attribute you write the getter method. Here I is one attribute, j is another attribute. These are my attributes. So how to write getter method? So int get I. So here you should write the return type, and this method returns the value of I. So what I will do? Return I. Return I. So this is the getter method of attribute I. Similarly, I should write getter method for j also. How to write? This get j. Generally, while writing the method name, you should write the first letter should be lowercase and remaining letters means remaining words first letter should be uppercase. So here get j. So here I write j. Similarly, if you want, this is what? To retrieve the data. So using getter method, you can retrieve the data. Similarly, to retrieve, you can use getter. Similarly, for setting, you can write setter method. Now here I should write set I. What you have to set? Some value int. Assume I write some value v. So whatever the value I am passing, that value I have to set to I. So this dot I equal to v. So my v is assigned to my attribute I. Similarly, I should assign to j also. So here what I will write? Control v. Set j. Whatever the value I am passing, I should assign to j. So now I wrote getter method, setter method, constructor. Now I will go to my method, driver method, public static void main. Main takes arguments, means command line argument. These are all string type. Now what is my goal? Once the class is ready, then you have to create object. So how to create object? Name of the class is test. T1 is the object. And I told you there are two ways to create object. First one is by using new operator. Second one is by using clone method. So now I want to create first object T1 equal to new test. But my constructor is what? Here I am writing my constructor. This constructor takes two parameters. So while creating object, I have to pass two parameters. Assume I am passing. The first value is 10, second value is 15. So that means I is 10, j is 15. So once I pass the 10 and 15, my objective one is ready. My objective one is ready. So how to print? Can I write system dot out dot println? I want to print T1. Now what is the name of the class? Test. Control C, Control S, Control V dot Java. My program is now saved. Go to the command line argument. Go there. Clear the screen. Java C test.java. Now here semicolon missing. Go to the line. Semicolon missing because every statement must be ended with a semicolon. Okay. Okay. Control S. Clear the screen. Compile it. Again, missing return statement. Remember, get returns I. Set method returns nothing. So setter method should be void. So when you are writing setter method, it must be void. So please remember, in getter method, you have to write the return type of attribute. In setter method, you are not setting anything. Sorry, you are setting something, but you are not returning anything. So when you are not returning anything, write void. Right? Void. Now, Java C test. Yeah, I have compiled. Now, Java test. Now you try to see what are the different kinds of errors are coming. Now what you got? You got the address of the object. But in that address, what value is there? In that object, what value you have stored? Because this is the object having attribute I as well as attribute j. So what is the value of I? And what is the value of j? Actually I value is 10, j value is 15. Those things you have passed. Those things I should print. But it is not printing. It is printing only the address of the object. So how to print? For that what I have to do? And I told you, whenever you want to print object, you have to override a method called toString method. So if you want to print object, you should write a method called toString. If you write toString, the toString method has to return a string object because that value will print. Return my object or my attribute, something whatever you want to write. My attributes I equal to plus I. Whatever the values you have given, that I want to print. Plus j equal to plus j. So whatever the j you have assigned, that value I want to print. So that means I am concatenating my attributes values and returning. So finally what you are returning? You are returning a string. So the return type must be a string. So once you write toString method, then it will allow you to override. Compile it. Now you got error. toString test cannot override in object. So what is saying? Attempting to string assign a weaker access. Actually, it's supposed to be public. That's why it is giving error. So to overcome this, you should write here public string. Because you are overriding the toString method from one class called object class. There is a built-in class called object. In object class, there is a method called toString. That toString you are overriding. So now, if you write public, it says that okay. Now check. Yeah, now no error. Earlier there was error. Now there is no error. Now Java test. Yeah, now my object is printed. I value is 10, j value is 15. So whenever you want to print object, you should write the toString method. The toString method will allow you to write whatever you want. So here what I wrote, T1 itself. So automatically the T1 will be calling which method? When we are trying to print object, it will call automatically toString method. So every object is linked with the toString method. That will come automatically. So that thing you should remember. Now, which technique I have used? I have used new operator to create the object. I told you there are two ways. One is using new. Second one is using cloning method. So you can clone it also. You can clone it also. Let me use a cloning object. Test T2 equal to, how to clone it? You are cloning which one? You are cloning the T1. So T1 dot clone. Now you are cloning. But when you are cloning, that returns what type of object? That returns test type. So test it. So you have to typecast. Once you clone, the T2 object will be created. The T2 object will be created. Now you are cloning which one? T1. Now here I will write one message. I will write. This is using new operator. Using new get T1. This is one. Okay. Here using cloning I am getting now. Now T2 comes through cloning. Here try to observe. Using cloning. Get T2. Control S. Now see what errors are coming. Try to see the errors. Now my goal is use new as well as use cloning. Yeah, there is error. What error? Unreported exception. Clone not found exception must be caught or declared to be thrown. So whenever you are using a clone method, then there is a chance of some runtime error. So this runtime error comes under the checked exception. This must be thrown. So you should write here throws exception. You should throw the exception. This is one error. Now check again. Now Java test. Again while running, it says that clone exception thread main Java lang throws. You are throwing exception. Did you implement? Implements clonable. Implements clonable. Control S. Compile it. Yeah. Now after cloning I am getting the, yeah. Observe here. Using T1 I got this and using T2 I got this. So same thing. Whatever the data was there in T1, same thing is cloned. So that means you can create object using new or using clone also. Now you may ask, sir, for T2 can I change the value? Initially I got exact data. Assume I want to change T2 dot set J. There is a method called setting method. Set J 25. So J value I want to change. After setting, then what is my value? Now let me here I'll say after setting. After set. Control S. Compile it. Run it. Now after setting, what I got? I value 10, J value 25. That means I can change later. Initially clone it, later change it. So you can change any data also. So this is the way you are able to create object using different techniques. So T1 is created using new operator. This is created using new, whereas T2 is created using clone. But for clone, you have to write these things: throws exception as well as implements clonable. These two things you have to add. If you use this concept, then you can create one more object without using additional new. So this is the way the objects are created. So today you have learned about how to create object using different techniques, using new as well as using clonable. So the remaining part will continue in the next session. Okay. Thank you.
Like, share and subscribe. Hit the bell icon for more updates.